Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome back to Ask Alima with me, your host, Ustad Naeema, ready to talk about loads of amazing, relevant topics with you all today. I hope you all had a fantastic break with the family and hope you all are well rested, inshallah. So today I want to talk about an amazing topic, something that is so dear to me because I feel like as British Muslim modern women, it's an area and a topic that so many of us struggle with, and that is the topic of hijab. We live in a modern society where observing hijab every day has become harder and harder. And so many people come to me every day almost and say, like, how is it to be on TV? How is it being on a platform speaking about topics whilst you wear the hijab? Like, how do you find being in these situations? And honestly, the truth is, hijab has been a little bit of a journey for me. And I'm not saying that is completely easy. However, it is something that is part of our religion. And it's something I have accepted as being an honor for me as a woman. So observing the hijab, I feel like when we think about hijab, we think about whenever people ask us as a Muslim, like, why do you wear the hijab? It's quite easy for us to say, because Allah wants us to be modest. Allah likes for us to observe it and we get into this whole thing of trying to explain why the hijab is so important, not knowing why the hijab is very important for us ourselves. So for those sisters who are out there who are struggling, I do suggest that you do watch this episode right till the end, because I'd love to share some gems with you from my journey and from other sisters who have struggled with the hijab, yet have worn it and felt very comfortable with what they're wearing in their own skin, and felt confident enough to go out in the world and be very proud of saying, hey, I wear the hijab and I feel great about it. So first of all, the hijab. Why do we wear the hijab? First, and I want to start by talking about modesty. First of all, Allah has told us that we should be modest, whether it's through our dress, through our character, through our speech, for everything. Allah loves modesty. Allah loves for not just women to be modest, men to be modest too. So let's start on that. What is modesty to you? How do you feel modest? So before going into this is how the hijab should be worn and this is the rulings of the hijab, let's think about modesty. What does modesty mean for you? Because that's always a good place to start, because Allah loves modesty. Being modest is not only just for Muslims, it's for everybody. Being modest is something that is very honorable. It's a good thing to be. So being modest in your dress, well, for me, it means that I'm covered. I feel like I am showing up in a respectable manner. And I feel like, well, hijab for me is covering my head. Hijab for me is wearing clothes that are not revealing. For somebody else, it may be completely different. However, the problem starts when we start saying that hijab is not part of our faith. Hijab is not part of our religion. Islam doesn't necessarily mean, well, being a Muslim doesn't necessarily mean I have to wear the hijab. Yes, you're right. You don't have to wear a hijab to be a Muslim. You don't have to be wearing, a veil to be a devout Muslimah. However, wearing a hijab is part of our religion. And when we accept the fact that Allah wants us to wear the hijab, not because He wants to oppress us, because He loves us, then that is always a good place to start. And sometimes we think, but if I wear the hijab, then we will lose out on so many opportunities in the world and so many doors will close for me if I show up in my hijab. Yes, wearing a hijab is a struggle. And sometimes it's good to hear that part of our faith is a struggle, because at the end of the day, like the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that the dunya, the world, is a prison for the believers. Part of our deen will restrict us. It's meant to restrict us. That is the point of it. When we feel restricted because of certain parts of our religion, know that it's meant to feel like that. It's restricting us because that is what Allah knows is good for us. It comes from a place of love. Like the same way your mother wouldn't allow you to, well, most mothers would allow their daughters or their sons to be dressed very immodestly when going out, showing off all their body parts, dressed in a very revealing sort of way, because they know what's best for us. In the same way, Allah, more than our mothers and our fathers, knows even more what's best for us. And that's why the hijab has been instructed for women to wear. So not only is it just for modesty, it's equality, it's an honor, and it's to be able to wear the hijab and say that I am showing off as a Muslim woman unapologetically. It's a beautiful thing, because at the end of the day, whether you are a Muslimah who's rich or poor, black or white, green or yellow, whatever it is, whatever culture you're from, the hijab is there as an honor for you to show that we have been elevated as Muslims. We're not there, we're precious, we're not there to be shown off to the world. And I'm sure many of you guys know the whole, that whole connotation of when something's covered, it's because it's precious, when something's on show. And I'm not saying to those women who don't cover up that you're not precious, you're not good enough, and Allah doesn't love you. Allah loves you. That's why the rulings are there. Allah loves you, and that's why it is upon us to accept that this is from, it's upon us to reciprocate that love in a way that feels good for us. For those women who are out there and they are struggling to wear their hijab and they ask advice like, where do I start? Because it feels so daunting, especially if you've never worn it before, especially if you're from a background where maybe your family members or your elders did not wear it and you literally have no idea where to start. Always start by thinking, let's take the perfection out of it. Because when we aim for perfection, then it's very difficult for us to be able to carry on, because then we'll feel overwhelmed, we'll feel daunted. Always start from somewhere and be okay and celebrate the small progress that you make whilst trying to maintain modesty. For example, you see, sadly, in this day and age, you see so many people who start wearing the hijab and it's going great, and then one day they take it off because people are mean. People will say things like, if you're not wearing the hijab, why is she wearing the hijab if she's not wearing it properly? Number one, do it for yourself. Don't worry about what other people are thinking, because people always have something to say about your hijab, whether that's within our own Muslim community or whether it's from non-Muslims making you feel like you're less than because you're covering up. It's okay. Start with understanding the reason why you're wearing it and take small steps towards your goal. If you want to start wearing the hijab and you feel like you'll compromise on your identity, don't feel like that. Instead feel like it is going to make your personality shine, because people are looking at you for your skills, your character, you as a person. And in fact, if you're feeling like going into a workplace whilst wearing a hijab is a very scary thing to do, think about it like this: if they are going to look at you differently for your hijab, that means they didn't really value you as a person in the first place. And is that a place that we want to be? So in being a fairly young Muslim woman in this modern society, wearing a hijab has been such an amazing opportunity for me, because in fact, I feel like to be honest, actually, it's been nice for me to be able to do this. And I feel like women who wear a hijab is amazing, because people actually listen to you for you. People listen to you and give you opportunities for what you have to offer rather than how you look. And that is honestly truly amazing. Being able to show up as a Muslim unapologetically is something that we should all be doing as Muslims, whether it's through wearing the hijab, however it is that you're wearing, or just dressing modestly, but being able to say, this is what my Islam has instructed, and I accept that this is what my Islam has instructed, and I'm proud of it. I love it. And being able to answer the questions of people who don't understand hijab unapologetically. Sometimes when people who don't understand hijab ask us, like, are you forced to wear that? And we're like, no, we're not forced to wear it. But then we also shy away from the fact that Allah has ordained for us to wear that as an honor. And we shy away from it because we don't actually understand why Allah has given us a hijab as a way of not only protecting us, but elevating us. And it's crazy because in this day and age, when people see a nun or somebody else who's covered up, in many religions, they are instructed to cover up. And it's seen as fine. Wow, they're so devout, they're so pious. It's a mark of their piety. But when we're unfortunately covering up, it's almost like, why does she have to be so extreme for? Why does she not try to fit in a little bit more? It doesn't matter. We're not made to fit in. At the end of the day, as a Muslim, you're not made to fit in. We all know, as a Muslim and a Muslimah, you're not made to fit in. You're made to, you knew it comes with a level of responsibility. It comes with a commitment. Islam is a commitment. And if you feel like you're standing out because of your hijab, so be it. Let this be an opportunity to give da'wah to others, to say, I'm okay with being a Muslim. I'm proud of what my religion has given me. I'm proud following my religion out in public. And then when we can do that, then other things become easy as part of our religion. Praying Salah in a public place has become so difficult for us. You know, even myself, at one point in my life, I felt like when I was praying Salah in a public place, it was very difficult. I'd shy away from it and try pick somewhere where nobody would see me, because how would I explain the strange positions I was doing in Salah? Now I'm just like, it's okay. Let this be an opportunity that if people want to ask, that I'm able to explain it in the best way possible. It's a da'wah opportunity. It's a way for me to show my religion in a way that makes me feel good. And wear your hijab like a crown, wear your hijab like an honor, and show good character, show good morals, because that's what a hijab is. You know, a hijab is a sign of modesty, it's a sign of piety. But again, it's a sign that when you wear your hijab and you show good character and you're a smiling person, and people realize that, wow, this is what Islam is really about. Islam is great. Islam isn't what people make it out to be. We've been shown in such a negative light in so many places, in so many ways. It's sad, but we can change that for everybody when we wear our hijab unapologetically. So if you're struggling with hijab, honestly, just start from somewhere, and it doesn't have to be perfection, you know. And if you're a person who's out there saying, but why is she wearing hijab if she wears her makeup like that, or why is she wearing hijab if this is on show? Leave it. Let people be. Let people follow their religion, and let people grow, because at the end of the day, it's hard. We can't deny that it's not. We can't deny the fact that sometimes it is hard, but it's a start, and sometimes we need to make that change, and we can't put people off the religion by constantly picking out their faults, by constantly saying that that's not how you should be doing it should be done like this. Let people be. Let people enjoy practicing their deen. Let people connect to Allah in a way that feels good for them. It doesn't have to be your way. It doesn't have to be your way. But also, on that note, accepting that Allah has ordained us to wear the hijab, so be careful of and refrain from saying things, but the hijab isn't that important. Allah's okay with me not wearing it as long as I do this instead. At the end of the day, when we accept that it's from Allah, and part of Islam is also surrendering to Allah's will and what Allah has wanted for us, then that's also a good place to start, inshallah. I'll speak to you more about this after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome back to the show. So before the break, I was talking about the hijab, and I was talking about surrendering to Allah. Islam, what does Islam mean? Islam is a religion of peace, you know, following the rules and the religion, how it's meant to be, how Allah has ordained for us to follow the religion, should bring us peace into our life, without doubt. Okay. A lot of the times, as in my journey, I'm still on this journey of following my religion and becoming closer to Allah every single day. There's things I find hard. There's things I struggle with. And I think people, all of us, need to accept the fact that parts of our religion will be absolutely hard for us. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to try. And that does not mean we're going to pretend a part of our religion doesn't exist just so that it suits us better. I found that in my younger years of practicing my religion, I found it very hard to admit parts of my religion were there. And as I looked into the deen more, looked within myself even more, I realized that it was no fault of the religion. As much as it's easy to say, this part of my religion is so difficult, I can't do it, it's sometimes good to look inside yourself, within yourself, and say, why is it that I'm finding this very hard? Because truly, as a Muslim, when you realize that Allah always has had our best interests at heart, even more than your mother, and let's think about it, no one loves you more than your mother, right? And when we truly accept that Allah has our best interests at heart, then practicing our religion becomes that bit more easy. We have that advantage because we know that this is the correct way. Islam saves us from so many things. Allah has created a path that is very straight, very straightforward, Sirat al-Mustaqim, which is literally the straight path towards Jannah. So when we truly hold on to the teachings instead of taking away from it and adding into it just to fit our culture or our society or the modern day we live in, we'll realize that things become easier. And unfortunately, we see this happening more and more around us, where people say, oh, you know what? It's all right if I drink, or it's all right if I do this, because actually it's not really a part of our religion to stay away from drugs or alcohol, or they start making all these excuses, or music, let's say. The truth is, Islam's pretty black and white, and it's not allowed. And Islam, yes, it means a religion of peace, but Islam actually also as well as it meaning peace, comes from the word Islam, which means to surrender, to accept that Allah's rules are Allah's rules. So we can't say that this is hard and I'm not going to accept that as part of my religion. Instead, have this mindset that it's hard and I'm going to try even harder to practice it. And I'm going to do that little bit more to feel more closer to Allah by listening to what Allah has ordained for me and trying harder each day to become stronger in my faith and in my iman. So back on to modesty and on the hijab and the topic of finding it difficult in a modern day society to wear the hijab. It's okay that it's hard, but as long as we're trying and as long as we're not putting other people off and understanding why you're doing it, not forcing anybody to do it, especially because that also can be a recipe for disaster, telling people that they have to do it and forcing the deen onto them, forcing them in a way that they're not doing it from a place of love and they're not doing it from a place of seeing it as an honor, instead seeing it as something that is truly oppressive, then that is, you know, when we do that and we do that for our children and those around us, our family members, then that's when the problem then starts. Because when we see it as oppressive, if we were to see the hijab as oppressive, then other people will see it as that, because we're not happy wearing it. We don't understand why we're wearing it, and it's not coming from a place of seeing it as a thing of honor. So inshallah, I would love to hear your thoughts on hijab in the modern day society, in a workplace, within your family, how it works, you know, how your hijab story, how you came about wearing it, have you always wore it? Love to hear these stories because it can be inspiration for others as well. So if you do have any stories that you'd love to share, any insights as well, feel free to WhatsApp us on 07585 835 150 or calling in on the number shown on the screen below. So as and a story that comes to mind is when I was actually in the masjid very recently, and there was a ustad that was speaking at the front, and she was just talking about how a lot of the times we hear things and it's very hard for us to accept the fact that, you know, this is a part of our deen. And she was like, sometimes like when our mother says something to us, when she used the example of a mother, like when your mother says something to her, even though we hate it, we accept it, and deep down we know that she comes from a place of love. Like Allah loves us so much more than that. And she said it very simply, very beautifully, but it was a great thing to think about. It was a great, what she said was very, it stuck with me, because like Allah knows us more than our mother knows us. Allah created our mothers, Allah created us. Allah knows us more than that. Allah loves us more than that. So accepting and having that acceptance and having that mindset of being able to surrender to Allah and accept the fact that Allah has blessed us in this world with Islam to keep us on the straight path, to protect us, to keep us going so that we can attain Jannah and we can be close to Him, not only in this world, but in the hereafter. That is truly something special. It's truly something special for us. And whenever we're finding any part of our deen hard, is great. A great way to go about it is simply by saying to Allah, Allah, I'm struggling with this. It's really difficult for me. Please help me through it. Instead of hiding away from it, acceptance and saying that Allah, I'm really am struggling with this and I want to try to do this. And even if you don't want to do it, ask Allah to open up your heart to it. Because a lot of the times There were things as when I was younger and growing up that I didn't want to do some things. You know, I found it difficult, but I still asked Allah to open up my heart towards it. And slowly, as time went by, I noticed that I found things easier and easier. Salah is one of them. You know, praying 5 times a day was difficult because you had to do ablution, you had to do wudu, you had to ensure that you had the correct dress, you were in the correct place at the correct time. It was difficult. And it was sometimes easy to miss the salah and then make it up later. And you realize that, Allah, please give me the love for my salah in my heart. Place it in my heart. You place it in my heart. Allah can change the state of your heart. Ask for it, because instead of closing the doors of your heart and saying, I don't want to accept, I don't want to, I rather ignore, I rather not practice that part of my religion, just ask Allah to open up the doors. Allah's in control of your heart. He created your heart. He knows everything that is happening inside your heart. He knows every thought that is happening, going through your mind. He knows all of that. So just ask him, ask Allah, can build that connection with him, even through your struggles. If you're struggling with something, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be the hijab or salah or anything. It could be something completely different. It could just be something in your journey, in this deen that you're struggling with, or anything. It doesn't even have to be anything to do with the deen. Turn to him, make it a habit that we turn to Allah with our struggles and ask him to help us, rather than us sitting there worrying, fretting about it, getting anxious over it, overthinking it. Literally, our strength and our advantage as Muslims is within our faith, within the fact that we can turn to him and say to Allah that you help me through it, because I trust that you know what you're doing. I know that you have a plan in place, and I know that you love me. You love me, and I will reciprocate that. I will act according to that. I will act like you love me, instead of pretending that, you know, sometimes when things don't go right in our life, we can, unfortunately, some people do, they say that Allah doesn't love me and this is why I'm going for this challenge. Allah does love you. Of course Allah loves you. Bad things happen and challenges happen, not because Allah doesn't love you, it's because Allah wants to either make you come out of it stronger, teach you a lesson, or show you something even greater that comes out the other end of it. So I know this is about hijab and modesty, but it just shows that we can honestly connect with Allah through the simple piece of cloth that is on our heads, through our modesty, with in our modesty, in our speech. Anything can literally aid us in this journey, and it's less about people and more about us and this journey that we're on. Because at the end of the day, this is what this dunya is. This world is that. When we're struggling to wear our hijab in a workplace, think about it. What was the work for anyway? What was the bigger picture? Sometimes we're so focused on the small problem. It's like we're literally zooming in on the problem for 1 second. And I say this to friends and colleagues and whoever it is that I speak to. I'm like, 1 second, we're zoomed in on the tiny little aspects of our life. Zoom out and look at the bigger picture and see where are we? Who are we doing this for? What is the end goal here? Everything is for Allah. Our families, marrying to complete our deen, raising children so that they can be a sadaqah jariyah for us, you know, so that they can be the coolness of our eyes, but also be God-fearing children, so that we can teach them the deen, so that they can go on and teach and show others, and, you know, bring up children as well for the sake of Allah. Everything is, when we go out to work, it's for our family, it's a sadaqah for our family. If you're a man and you go out to work and you're doing all that stuff and bringing the food to the table, that as well, it's for the sake of Allah. Everything we do. So when we're struggling in parts of our religion for the dunya, it's sometimes good to reevaluate your intentions and think, why am I doing this anyway? Who is it for? What is the bigger reason behind all of this? Because at the end of the day, that is it. We're doing it for Allah every single day. And it's a good thing to do, to rectify your intentions at the beginning, middle, and end of each day, everything you do. And that is where you will find the success and the sweetness of this world. And honestly, remember this, that the world was never meant to be easy for the believer. It's a prison for the believer, but that's what we sacrifice for the akhirah, for our Jannah, the end goal is that we get that, inshallah. And I hope to see you all next week, inshallah, where we can discuss more topics. Feel free to WhatsApp us to ask any questions, and I'd love to answer them in our next show next Friday at 8:30, inshallah. And yeah, and if you do feel like you want to be a part of this discussion, feel free to call us in on the number that's shown on screen. I'd love to talk to you all more about this. Feel free to share your insights, share any questions that you have about any topics that you feel like are relevant that I can answer, inshallah. And I'd love to be able to shine light on this from the teachings of the Quran and Sunnah, inshallah. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Allah, ya Allah.